10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, and welcome to EM Publishing's monthly live stream in October. It's Halloween, so it's a little bit terrifying, but don't worry. My name is Jessica. I'm the business manager at EM Publishing, and as you know, we're kind of a big fan of Level Up Advanced 5th edition, and so I decided to invite 3 other people who are big fans of Level Up Advanced 5th edition, so much so that they are making actual play podcasts and campaigns about it. So, folks, thank you so much for coming along.
Thank you very much for having us.
I'll go around and do a little introduction so you can say a little bit about who you are. We'll get into the actual play streams and talk more about it a little bit later. But Tyler, if you want to start, if you want to introduce yourself, who are you and what associations do you have with Level Up?
Yeah, so I am a freelance writer and game designer. I've been doing it for like a decade now. And for Level Up, I've been doing a few things. I do a bunch of the website stuff, which means if you're working on links for the A5E tools, I'm making sure they're clean, making sure the formatting works. I've done a little bit of writing for Gate Pass Gazette. You can see one of my things in the past. And I also have the Table Quests campaign, Wish You Were Here.
Yes, definitely. And we'll be talking about that in detail a little bit more. Before we go on, Tal, could you introduce yourself to the stream?
Hi, my name is Tal Aviazer. I'm from a group called Cast Party. We're a group of actual play Dungeons and Dragons practitioners and fans and friends. We're also all pro DMs. We've been active in the greater New York City metro area since early 2020. Most of us have a theater and film background that we bring to it. And I've also done some indie TTRPG and D&D 5e designing and publishing.
Amazing. And Cast Party we will be talking about a little bit more in the show. And also here we have Dustin representing Tales of Initiative. Dustin, could you tell us a little bit about you and with Level Up as well?
Yeah. I'm a DM for Tales of Initiative. We are a group that kind of just came together of honestly, I joined because of a TikTok that was like, hey, come play with us. So I was like, cool, I'll come take a look at that.
Amazing.
I found Level Up through a friend, Took, who was doing a Level Up live play short form campaign that I joined in that I get to play with you in. And
Yes.
I was amazed by the system. I really loved some of the intricacies that made it a little different from standard 5e. That was really, really cool. And so I wanted to be a part of that. And so reached out to you about that and really excited to be here.
Yep. Well, really glad to have you on the show and excited to see the campaigns as they roll out. Now, so how this is kind of involved. So at EM Publishing, we do sponsorship for campaigns that run Level Up Advanced 5th edition because we think it's really cool when people do that. And if you are interested in running your own, or you currently are, we are now accepting your applications for the next quarter, which was January to March 2023. So if you're thinking about running an actual play podcast or live stream in early next year, have a look at sponsorship, see if it fits for you, and you can apply. The link is up now, and I'll also put the link in the chat so you can just click it and it's easy. So let's make everyone's lives easier. So let's pop that down in the chat there. So if you are interested, hey, maybe in a few months' time, it'll be you coming on the show and I'll interview you about the actual play campaign. And these fine folks are the people that we selected from the applications to sponsor for our actual plays at this time. But before I jump into talking about actual plays and Level Up a little bit too much, we have to talk about the big new thing that happened with Level Up, which is the Dungeon Delver's Guide. So for people that are familiar with the Dungeon Delver's Guide, this is an awesome tome to help you run your dungeon. It's got, oh my gosh, it's got so much going on in there. So it's got, hundreds of different traps. It's got the node system, which is unique ways to make your dungeon. It's got new heritages, new cultures. It's compatible with 5e, so you've got races and classes. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on in there. If you are interested, last month we did our monthly live stream talking about that for about an hour, so you can go back and check that out. But we have opened the backer kit So if you're a backer, you can go on there and fill that out. And if you missed it, if you're like, oh, I really wanted that, we have actually opened it for pre-orders, for late pledges on BackerKit as well. So you can check that out on there. So if you want to get your mitts, your grubby mitts on the Dungeon Delver's Guide, you can grab it there. And one of the reasons I mention this is because our collector's edition of Level Up Advanced 5th Edition is only available via our Kickstarters or if you go to conventions. So if you wanted to get your hands on these very pretty books, like these ones here, if you're a sucker for fake leather and embossed wool like I am, then you'll want to get that. And the Dungeon Delver's Guide has an edition that's available to that. And we also have, I think, about 60 or 70 of these copies left, and this is the only print run we're going to do. So if you do want one, now is the time to get involved. And the Dungeons Delver's Guide matches that and is in the same theme, as you can see that. And you can pick that up on the backer kit there. And also we've got loads of other cool add-ons as well for the Level Up line. So you can see all the stuff and the books and things that we have there, including Memories of Holdenshire book, which we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail coming up soon. So if you're interested in that, you can take a look and have a look at the links by there. But you're thinking, great, Jess, you did the Dungeon Delver's Guide Kickstarter last month. It's going well. Backer kit's going on. Surely, you're going to have a rest now. No, that's not what we're doing. We're planning all the shipping. We're planning all the fulfillment. And we're also running another Kickstarter because obviously, why would you calm down and just relax? So our next Kickstarter, which I'm really excited about, is our kind of horror themed for Halloween. It's not specifically Halloween, so it can be played any time of year with horror, but Halloween fits a good time for horror. And it's called Terrible Treasures and Frightful Fables. And as you can see, there's a dinosaur velociraptor cool thing on the screen there. It's Day of the Dead with dinosaurs. And because I'm so rambly, I'm just going to play this quick video to give you a little bit of intro on it for about 90 seconds, to give you a flavor of this game.
Terrible Treasures and Frightful Fables. Trinkets and adventures for your D&D 5e Halloween sessions. A collection of wondrous items, armor, weapons, and potions for both good and evil players. Gift your players with monstrous masks. These powers can be a tremendous boon for characters of any level, race, or class, but none should be used lightly, lest the wearer become monstrous themselves. 2 adventures in fantastical cities for your players to explore, although they may wish to watch their step. The city of White Night is covered in a gigantic magical dome that blocks divination and teleportation spells. The rays of the sun itself are used to fuel this magic, so daylight may no longer grace the city. The city of New Aslitan is in the midst of its most important religious celebration of the year. Unfortunately for the residents of New Aslitan, something evil stirs beneath the city. Unbeknownst to them, the ancient ruins New Aslitan were built atop were in fact from a civilization of feathered serpents, or as some might say, dinosaurs. This collection of terrible treasures and frightful fables will be with you before the end of October, ready for your D&D 5e Halloween sessions.
And so that is Terrible Treasures and Frightful Fables. So if that looks of interest to you, please click and check it out. So it's it's $10 for the PDF, and we're going to fulfill it instantly when it ends in 7 days. So you'll have it right before Halloween. And then as soon as Kickstarter sends the payment through, which is about 2 weeks after it ends, we will be putting the print order straight in and getting your books to you in about 2 or 3 weeks after then. So something you can get very quickly. Links in the chat or up on screen there. And I'm very excited for that one. I think it's super fun, so I hope you all enjoy it too. But yeah, so that was kind of my EM publishing blurb. If you do have any questions about stuff we're doing, if you are a backer of the Kickstarter or you want to know about new stuff coming up, just pop your questions in the chat and we'll happily answer away now. But instead of me talking, I'm going to speak to the much more interesting people that are here in front of me now to ask about all the stuff going on with them. So Tal, I'll start with you. So if I could ask you all about Cast Party. So this is the first podcast we've had that we've sponsored. So could you tell us a little bit about what you're planning on doing?
Sure. So Cast Party's entry in this Level Up A5E adventure will be that we're running Memories of Holdenshire, which is the starter set, essentially, adventure for Level Up A5E. And I believe that we're the first actual play group to attempt this adventure.
Definitely the first I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've recorded several sessions of it, and it's been really exciting. And I would say it is a wonderful introduction to this rule set. One of the reasons that it works so well, I don't want to spoil too much of the plot of it because it's kind of a mystery adventure, but
Yes.
it begins with the player characters awakening in an amnesiac state, like having been in a fugue state for a matter of weeks or even a month, and in a state of disorientation. And a lot of the action that immediately follows is them trying to piece together what has happened to them. What have they been doing? They're accused of crimes that they're not sure whether they've committed or not. And as a player, it's helpful because it doesn't assume encyclopedic knowledge of the new rules of Level Up A5E if you're just an initiate to some of the changes and innovations of the system. It gives you a chance to learn as you play, which is probably the best way to learn, right? It's a lot more exciting to learn by playing than it is by absorbing a lot of text before you sit down at the table. So we've been kind of helping each other along. I think it'll come off pretty smoothly when you listen to the podcast itself, but it walks you through the various phases and modes of play that Level Up A5E introduced. One thing that I wanted to mention that everyone at the table really enjoyed is Level Up's journey system. Because my experience as a 5e player is often that the journey is something to be got through on the way to the more meaningful site-based adventure where the plot will actually unfold and meaningful choices are allowed to happen. And you feel like you're marking time a bit during the journey portion of the adventure. But everyone who played this adventure so enjoyed the new options and rules and tactics and benefits and demerits that came along with Level Up's journey system that we felt like if this system were in play in any 5e game, it would make the journey portion something more to look forward to as opposed to something to be gotten through as quickly as possible. So it was a highlight for me.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad that came through because with Level Up, one of the key pillars is the exploration pillar and making that part of the game. Like if you think of big stories like Lord of the Rings, you know, the journey is so much part of the story. It's not just, okay, time skip and now we're in Mordor. So I'm really glad that that's come through and that you're enjoying that with Memories of Holdenshire. So it's actually launching this Saturday.
Saturday, Saturday, October 22nd. And you'll be able to listen to it. Our podcast feed is actually not called Cast Party, it's called Podcast Party. But you can visit cast-party.com for the link to it. And after a delay, usually about a week, the podcast will also be available on our YouTube channel. And when it shows up on YouTube, it'll have some visuals and some animation to go along with it.
Nice.
And we have it, you know, it's professionally soundscaped. We do all of the effects and music and everything ourselves. So it's a pretty rich audio experience, but if you'd prefer to experience it visually, it will be available on Cast Party's YouTube channel about a week later. But you can visit cast-party.com for the links to all of those media.
Fantastic. That's perfect. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to see the animated version of this. Like I say, I've not heard anyone play this adventure through yet, so I'm excited to see it because I've not had the chance to play it through myself yet either.
If anyone would like a sneak peek of any of the artwork, we have our original character art is posted at cast-party.com. I think it's on the homepage, so you can go ahead. Carolyn Fox is one of our resident artists, and she did the portraits for the 4-player characters that'll appear in the show. You can take a look at those in advance of the first episode on Saturday.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, check that out at cast-party.com to check out all the links there. I'm very looking forward to listening to that. I'm gonna come back to talking about it, but I'm gonna move on for the moment to keep it moving and go to Dustin with Tales of Initiative. Dustin, could you tell us a little bit about Tales of Initiative and what you're doing? Because its first episode has already gone live just last weekend.
Yes. So Tales of Initiative, I've been running a campaign actually almost a year now in this world, and we've been building this lore and everything. And most of the time, your campaigns come in, you're in this like, oh, the world's existed, you're traveling around, you're establishing, and everything already is there. Yes, your characters may be low level, but there's these things that exist. I thought, what fun would it be to be that first adventuring party in the world? What would that look like? What would it look like if magic hadn't really been discovered yet? Like the arcane aspect of magic. There's deities, like there's the divine magic, there's the nature magic, the innate magic, but what if nobody knew about arcane magic or how to make that? What would it look like to be that first party? And so this story that we're telling this time, of calling it the Dawn of Vengalia, is taking place shortly after creation. Essentially, the world, when it was made, the gods walked amongst the people, but then something happens that causes this split between the gods and mankind, and then mankind is forced to separate and try to come back together. When people run into people, they're new, they don't know, they're afraid. What are we going to do? Instead of like trying to work things out traditionally through history, we fight. And the gods are like, whoa, maybe we shouldn't allow this fighting. Maybe we should try to bring them back together. So this is a village where representatives from every race are coming together to try to make things work once again. And what's going to happen as a result of that will create the first adventuring party in the world, which is going to be kind of fun, I think.
So it's a kind of a range of different heritages that we're going to see from Level Up Advanced 5th edition, because it's all different people as well. Fantastic.
Everybody will be playing a different race, different class kind of thing. So nobody can, we won't have any duplicate races within the party.
Fantastic. And you mentioned before you've played as a player in a Level Up Advanced 5th edition stream, and you're running this one. How are you finding GMing versus playing with it?
Well, because we're starting at level 1 versus starting at level 12, it's awesome. Because coming in at level 12, it's Level Up has so many cool features with the talent trees and the way that they spread out. Trying to jump in at level 12 is really, it's time consuming. I mean, I blew up your messages like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? Like, what does this do? When you're at level 1 and you get to experience a little piecemeal, I mean, it really is, it spoon feeds it to you. So it's like, hey, here's your step. You're not trying to make this giant leap. It's take first baby step. And I love that aspect of it, because the players are getting to learn what the little nuances are before we get into the big nuances, which make it a lot more fun, I think, for everyone. And it's really cool.
Fantastic. And where's the best place to catch this? Where and when can we?
Yes, right there. So our Twitch for Tales of Initiative, Sundays at 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. You can catch it on YouTube shortly after that as well, with our Tales of Initiative YouTube channel for that one. So Dawn of Vengalia is on Sundays.
Fantastic. So something to do all weekend long at the moment you've got here.
Yeah.
So we will come back to talk more about Tales of Initiative, but keeping it moving on, I'm going to come to last but by no means least, we have table quests as well. Tyler, could you tell us a little bit about table quests and what you folks are doing?
Yeah, so we're doing a heist adventure. Because I think that heists are awesome. Magic heists are great. It's been a really common trope, and I feel like there hasn't been a great campaign that does a heist super well that I've seen in a while. And then we have A5E, which has a bunch of stuff more built in and more baked into the DNA of it for what is stealthy, what can you see, how do you avoid stuff, and there's a lot of time and effort spent in thinking about how different bits of magic would interact. One of the things that's really helpful is how often it explains, for example, the rules of what triggers detect magic and what doesn't, which is fantastic, and it saves a lot of time when everyone being like all of a sudden debating, oh well, would this do it or not, and that's great. So we're doing in a world that I've been hammering away at off and on that kind of takes the opposite approach to what Dustin's talking about, of like adventurers and magic users have been around for ages. And if you had a world where you had like a level 20 wizard and you're not a level 20 wizard, that is a terrifying person to deal with. Yeah. So it's set in a city where basically the people in charge are de facto nobles because they're level 20 characters, basically. And the players we're starting at level 3, and they're going to try to rob them. So it's going to be a lot of them being clever. We're going to take a lot of inspiration from stuff like Lies of Loch Lamora, a lot of inspiration from that admittedly abysmal Dungeons and Dragons live action movie they made of like rogues being important, and part of it being how much are we just tricking people versus relying too heavily on magic. And the players ran with it, and we have some awesome characters. We have a warlock, for example, who half of his magic is just sleight of hand. It's not real magic, he just pretends it is, and that's been super fun to deal with. And there's a lot of things in A5E that are working really well for it. And then we're going to get into the big finale. We're going to treat the heist almost like a dungeon crawl, in terms of like they have 6 sessions to plan and prepare for the heist. Then they're going to go into the big bank. Not 6 sessions, 4 sessions. They're going to the bank, and then it's going to be how much are you able to avoid setting off alarms, getting into that bank, and then dealing with all the bits throughout it. So we're looking forward to it. I think it's a great system for it. I don't have to do quite as much work of like, would this set off this detect magic? Would this set off this other thing? Which is awesome.
Fantastic. And you had the first episode on Saturday?
Yes, they're Saturdays at 7 Eastern time, which I am terrible at time zones. So whatever that time is for everybody else. At Table Quest, and then they go up on YouTube later. We have a little bit of a backlog, unfortunately, because 2 of our video people have had various stuff going on. Life happens, so we have a little bit of a backlog there, so I don't know the exact turnaround time right now.
But you can catch it live on Table Quest on Saturdays, 7 p.m. Eastern. That's fantastic. How did the episode 1 go? How did the first session go?
It went well. It went really cleverly. The players loved getting to be just like not nice people. They're not good people, but we really enjoyed being able to be bad people in a worse city. So that's a lot of the tone is like, we're not great, but we're not them bad.
Wow. So it's just the bar's very low on what it is to be a likable person in this campaign. Good to know.
They also love adopting animals. Like they've already been like, they have a stronghold already, and they have set aside like a budget for found animal care. So
okay.
Well,
I guess that works if you want to see that. Speaking of characters, Tal, could you tell us a little bit about the cast and the characters we've got as well over on Cast Party?
Sure. We actually looked at the A5E Tools website and grabbed 4 of the pre-gens that Ian Publishing has made available there, which was incredibly helpful for us because we end up like turning the show around really quickly. So it was like diving in at the deep end of the pool for us, not being previously familiar with A5E. So I believe 2 of the characters that ended up on the podcast, they even have the same names as the pre-gens. There is a young, boisterous, very innocent, very noble Dragonborn ranger named Talingbet. It's played by Rachel Savicki. And there is a proud dwarven businessman named Gwyven, who's played by Andy Canistra. And my character is called Mercury. He is a tiefling charlatan cleric. He worships the god, the trickster, and he has like a TARDIS restaurant, I guess. It's like the restaurant at the end of the universe that he travels around in. And I think that's a sort of a gender swapped version of one of the pre-gens. There's a tiefling cleric pre-gen. We just switch the name, but statistically they're the same. And the other character is a gnome necromancer played by Carolyn Fox, and she's continually trying to dissect most of the things that we meet and find during the course of the adventure. These people are all strangers to each other as the adventure unfolds. So part of what you get to see over the course of the episodes is their growing understanding of each other's idiosyncrasies, some trust issues, some differences of opinion about morality and legality and how certain challenges should be approached and what's the right and wrong way to do things. Some people are a little more into embracing the idea of, well, everyone thinks we're criminals and it would be wrong to disappoint people.
Right.
And
they're kind of like Table Quest kind of.
You have to live up to your advertising.
Yeah.
And others are very horrified because that is not the direction in which they saw their lives unfolding, and they're just sort of trying to escape from that situation as quickly as possible without committing as few additional crimes as they can. So there's an interesting give and take that's often very funny that comes out between the tension of some people have skills, very larcenous skills, and some people have a very noble outlook. But they're all essentially more or less heroes. So the adventure proceeds in a more or less heroic fashion.
Excellent. I think that's a great tagline for the show. If you don't have one, like more or less
More or
heroes,
less heroes.
especially
Yeah.
with that tone at the end.
Yeah.
Sure. Great. Dustin, I wanted to talk a little bit about the characters we have in Tales of Initiative, because I briefly mentioned how the whole cast are going to be playing different heritages, different classes and stuff. Could you go into a little bit about who we've got at the table?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, like all my players right now, they're essentially just commoners with leanings towards a certain area, and there's going to be a trigger event that will help them fall into that heritage. So we have a elf, she's an Eladrin cleric. We're kind of going into that Eladrin, and she is going to be playing, I'm seeing if I have her stuff, a cleric of, right now she's got it towards like light domain, so dealing with fire and things of that nature. Then we have that's going to be played by Melissa. And I had some casting, I don't want to say nightmare, but we were supposed to start a few weeks ago. I put together a team, and then as happens, life changes, things happen. I went through like 4 or 5 people trying to replace 2 people, like right there at the very end. So like, it was like, okay, guys, we could really just anytime now we can just stop the circle. Okay, finally found people and locked them in. I'm really, really happy with the people that we have. So Melissa is playing Lorcan Sunchild, a Eladrin elf cleric. And then we have Maxim Yaroslavich. He's going to be playing a tiefling. Well, in 5e would be paladin. Within level up, it is
the Herald. Yeah.
The Herald. I'm drawing a blank. I know these words.
It's only when you're live.
It's only when I'm live. Yeah. And he's really excited about that. Everybody's taking on these very like deep, rich personalities. So Maxim is very deep in the Russian like vocal range and everything like that. So hearing him talk is like, okay, make sure you've got your spit guard up on your mic, because he's just all over the place and it's hilarious. We have Nyota Mkali, played by the wonderful, her name is Cher, and she's done a ton of stuff. She has an IMDb page, and I was like, oh wow, you really want to play with me? That's like, thank you, like that's so cool. And the depth of character that she brings, and everybody is like super like diving into their character's backstory. And it's funny because like they're all level 1 characters, and none of them have done a whole lot before, because they're not adventurers, they're commoners, but they're still finding all the stuff that they would have done in their lives that kind of have put them into this place where they're at now, because they are all representatives of their race coming to be here. So it's not just I'm a commoner, there's a lot more to it. But the way that Cher is promoting this, and she's playing a gnome druid, and I believe she is going, where is it? I'm sorry, I should have been more prepared for this one. I'm gonna pull up the thing right now on druids. I'll come back to her. Then we have Took playing Rar the Lost. And if you've watched, Thor, he's very much, my name is Quark, I'm a rock. He's playing an orc warlock, and very much embracing that like New Zealand accent type thing. And so he's like baby, like he's like a 4 foot tall, pure blooded orc, and everybody loves him and wants to protect him. And so he is kind of helping shepherd, unironically, because he's a warlock, but he's the one who's, I played with him before. So he's kind of helping direct things where there's any questions or confusion. But everybody, like, even though we only came together really within the last couple weeks, everybody coming together, it has been amazing, the chemistry that they've all had and the depth of relationship. My only thing for them was like, guys, don't trust each other yet. It's too soon. You're too soon to be best friends already. But the characters that they're bringing are all really cool. And they each had to bring a delegate, like of like 4 people total. So they're one of 4. And so the backstories that's already gone into their delegation that's come with them, and like the relationships that they have with them, is already really. I'm really looking forward to seeing where it comes out within the next couple episodes.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing it as well. I love seeing warlocks in games as well, because a review we had of Level Up, someone said we absolutely chose violence, as they said, when we recreated the warlock player from 5e, which I think is an excellent endorsement. So I kind of enjoy that very much. If you just jumped in, we've had a few people jump in and out. We are talking about Level Up Advanced 5th edition and the sponsored campaigns we have running from EM Publishing. If you are interested in getting sponsorship for your own Level Up Advanced 5th edition podcast, our campaign, we are accepting applications right now for streams and podcasts and shows that you're doing that will run in the new year from January to March 2023. And the link I've got on stream is where you can go and have a look and apply for it there, if that's of interest to you. And then maybe you can come on a stream and have me ask questions all about your game next time in the future. But yeah, so talking about kind of the streams and the campaigns, so Tali, you talked a little bit about kind of your idea kind of for the stream, setting it up beforehand. Could you go into a little bit more detail about kind of what your idea was behind the story?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a background that's a lot into politics and law and stuff. So one of the things that I always think about whenever I do any system is like, what would this world actually look like? And yeah, a world of magic, it becomes like any other thing that people can control and take advantage of. And then you're going to have people figure out how to get against that. So it was set up with a world that the use of magic, possession of magic items is regulated, because, yeah, if you look at the Middle Ages in real life, a lot of the time it was like you weren't allowed to just have weapons in town in a lot of places, because that would be seen as like odd. That's like a thing that we would be concerned about. And like creatures, humans, or looking at fantasy, like humanoid like creatures, we like regulations, we like creating cultures and rules, and just it's an examination of that. And then sometimes I think the best way to learn about how society works is to be like, who are the people who are fighting it, who are ignoring it? So yeah, we set them up. They've been a gang of criminals for years already, and they got to start with a bunch of like inside jokes, and the players we have been together and played together quite a few times. So really quick, they were able to be like, all right, these new characters, they have inside jokes and their own language and their own codes and stuff. And they've just been able to lean into that and toss them back and forth really quickly, which has been really fun and fantastic. And I'm really curious to see how they keep going with it. I also did get messaged that we are back on track, and it's up on YouTube on Fridays.
Oh, excellent. Okay, great. So that'll be for Table Quests there for the live stream on Saturdays, and on Fridays following week up on YouTube then. Yeah. Fantastic. Also, oh my gosh, I just completely forgot the question I was going to ask you. How embarrassing. It just skipped right out of my mind. I was going to talk about, I was going to ask about, so your players. So I know you're very familiar with Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. But what about your players? Is this some of their first time playing it compared to 5e, and how have they found it?
Yeah, this is the first time for all of them playing 5e. Okay. And one of the players who has a great mind for math and stuff like that, which I don't. But he looked at the Warlock and was like, oh. So yeah, we have Kyle playing Tal, who's our Warlock / sleight of hand expert. And that's a really fun character, and a lot of it has been built around...
And a classy name.
I know, right? I was like, oh, I have a Tal, and I have a character named Tal. This works out really well.
Is the character purposefully made after the real life Tal as well?
I don't
say yes. Yeah.
I mean, you don't know how they're going to describe him fully.
You're not entirely bald.
No.
So I think it's a little different. Okay. Maybe. I mean, I think it has a little bit of inspiration from Solus from Dragon Age, if I'm being honest.
Okay. But a great name, nevertheless.
Oh, phenomenal name. We have Kendra playing Issa, who's our wood elf bard entertainer. So part of their cover story is that they have a tavern that their gang operates out of the basement of. So part of their cover is like Issa and Tal are the entertainment at the tavern. So they have that to make contacts, to do cons, because I've said you're in a criminal gang, and they were like, we are a social con artist gang, as like immediately. And I was like, I didn't make you do this. You could have been safecrackers and stuff. You chose con artists. And the bard works really well for that. I know it was one of the classes that bards in A5E are changed a lot because they have a lot of things they can do, which is really fun and cool. But there was like a couple of moments of conversation of like, okay, so what is this going to look like in combat? And we did have kind of like a session 0 and a session 0.5 we didn't film. One just to get character design done, and then one to be like question and answer. How are these mechanics going to interact? Let's talk about what combat is going to look like when we get there. And yeah, talking about how like the bard, it's like, yes, you have to use actions for some of these things, and like setting up your battle hymns. And that's been really cool. And I think we're going to have our first combat next session, which is going to be awesome.
Okay.
We've got Kat playing Marigold, who's our human ranger, who is the one that is like, yes, I know our hideout is supposed to be secret, but we have 30 animals in it. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, do you want the menagerie upgrade for it? And like, no. We're not like running it effectively. We just keep letting animals in and feeding them. We just have stray cats and stuff. And I'm like, yep, that works for me. And
I think that's really common for characters and campaigns to just adopt everything they want to see. So
100%.
We even made a book about it at EM Publishing called "Can We Keep It," which is a book exactly for that. So, Tao, I was going to ask you as well about, because historically you've done kind of D&D in your group, and you've mentioned how the exploration rules really got on well with your group. But for you personally, with your character as a player, how have you found the differences with D&D versus Level Up Advanced 5th Edition?
I think one of the things that we enjoyed most is the very flavorful abilities and ideas that are injected into the backgrounds and destinies of the characters. Destinies, for those who aren't familiar with, sort of in a way kind of replaces the ideal bonds and flaws. Am I correct about that? Of your character. And they basically can give you some extra abilities and also some definitive ways of gaining inspiration and using inspiration. And the background abilities are very funny and often enhance the social and role-playing aspects of the game. I know my character has an ability called fashion sense as part of his background, which allows him to judge people, which is something that I'm excellent at in real life and kind of do it as a hobby.
I know.
And if he can spend a minute or so chatting you up, he can evaluate whether his charisma score is better than yours, and also your general place in society, your sort of social level and your role, and what your lifestyle might be like. And to have the mechanic dovetail with the role playing so gracefully was a real pleasure for us to have that tool to use in play. As I often find in some systems, the attempts to gamify the role-playing and social aspects of the game get in the way a little bit, especially because our group is a bunch of actors who are very extroverted people, and they want to talk a lot. They will talk until you stop them talking. And this supported them very well as opposed to hindering them. So that was a real pleasure for us to be able to bring all of that background and Destiny stuff out during the course of the games. I would also just echo something that Tyler said earlier. I think Tyler mentioned your group did a session 0 that was like unfilmed and unaired. Like, if anybody is looking to like, I'm going to get into actual play streaming, definitely be like Tyler and like shoot or record your pilot first that never airs, so you can mess everything up and it's fine. Like, don't put your very first time playing together with your group on cam, like out there in the streaming world. Take some time because inevitably there's like some technical issues and maybe some chemistry issues and mechanical issues with the game. And it's really nice to kind of work all of those out in the privacy of your own circle, and not in front of not have it all the wheels falling off in front of the world. watching.
Well, the thing is, if you do something live, inevitably that will happen.
It will
No
anyway.
matter how,
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
internet will die midstream, or like a cat will come in that's not yours into the house and
Yeah.
run around the room, or just.
So I'll say
yeah.
a 20% reduction in that sort of thing
Okay,
can be.
that's
can be
very
avoided. Yeah.
That's very scientific of you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah.
Dustin, as we mentioned before, you have played a little bit of Level Up Advanced 5th
Yeah.
Edition before. Took was in Starcross Seaway, who's a player in your campaign, so is familiar with it. I think it's new to your other players though. How are they finding it?
They're loving it, and they love the aspects, the things that especially like we have a lot of socially conscious people who are very like aware of the shortcomings of just the standard D&D 5e, the areas of that kind of push on that, like the racism or the embracing of those things. And so the things that Level Up has done to really keep the meat and spit out the bones aspect of 5e. So the ability to like, okay, racial bonuses aren't so much of a thing because not everybody of a race is going to be this cookie kind of thing. So
Yeah.
all orcs are not stereotypically dumb, or they're not stereotypically strong, or they're not, it's more tied into your backgrounds or your class or your heritage and those things, which is really cool because it makes it more open to your imagination. I want, I want to be a goblin, but I don't want to be inherently evil. Like people don't, you don't have to jump into that. And so it gets rid of all of that aspect of it, which for my very socially conscious players, they're huge on. Like I brought one player, talking about Cher earlier, I brought her on, and the original plan I'd had for these, like the original first 4 or 5 levels, like quest, like the main first arc was going to be all based around this one monster type that was recommended. And she's like, maybe we don't have this be the monster type, because this monster type was known for subjugating other races and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? That's really valid. Like we don't, even as the bad guy, not focusing on that aspect of things. And the fact that Level Up is very much of that more inclusivity, and not everybody's equal. And like you're not inherently one thing or another is the thing that we just love about that aspect of it.
Oh, I'm glad that came through. It was one of the big reasons we chose, instead of having a race like you do in 5th edition, we've separated it into kind of so many elements we've already talked about, but like heritage and culture. So you can have people of the same heritage, like all being orcs, but culturally they can be very different. You could have an orc that grew up in the city and is, more cosmopolitan, or perhaps an orc that did grow up in like a more rural tribal community. So I'm glad that kind of aspect has come through.
Absolutely.
Well, folks, I have talked your ear off for coming up to an hour now. So I will just kind of wrap up and come through on there, just to run through for people that weren't with us at the beginning, the things I mentioned for us at EM Publishing. So the Dungeon Delvers Guide backer kit surveys are now live. And if you missed the Kickstarter and wanted to get a copy of the Dungeon Delvers Guide, we also have the late pledges open on backer kit here with the link there, so you can get yourself one of these very, very pretty collector's editions that you can only get via Kickstarters or at conventions. And we have about 80 of these left in the world, and once they're gone because we're not doing any more print runs of them because we're mean. So you can check that out there to have a look, along with all the other wonderful add-ons we have in the Level Up campaign going through there. And we also have live right now on Kickstarter Terrible Treasures and Frightful Fables, which is a horror-themed kind of Halloween book, which has loads of different kind of cursed trinkets for your players to have and use, and also these really creepy masks that for any level, for any race, any class that can wear them, and they give you some powers, but there's kind of a bit of a twist, and so buyer beware if you're going to buy and use them. Plus it comes with 2 adventures in these really cool mystical cities, and the cover is one of them. You can see it's kind of a Day of the Dead dinosaur vibe, which if you don't want that, I don't know what I can sell you. So, so take a look at that. That's live now. Terrible Treasures and Frightful Fables is live on Kickstarter, and you'll get the PDF in just 7 days as soon as the campaign ends. I'm gonna sit on my computer right here and send it to you the second it's over. So I hope you like that there. So I'm gonna say thank you so much to my lovely guests for coming on. Tal, thank you so much for coming on. Do you have any closing words or things to plug for Cast Party?
Thank you so much for having us. You can check us out at cast-party.com. Podcast Party Memories of Holdenshire starts this Saturday, October 22nd. It'll be in alternating weeks with our regular ongoing campaign, which is Podcast Party Descent into Avernus, which, as you might suspect, is us playing through Descent into Avernus. We're about 2 years in now, so we're in the thick of it.
Amazing, fantastic. Dustin, as well, do you have your last little words and spiels to share?
Yeah, I mean, feel free to check us out, Tales of Initiative. We have lots of shows, not just this one. We're actually running, I think, 5 or 6 different shows right now. We have a Star Wars campaign. We're doing Star Wars 5e on YouTube. We're running on Tuesdays. We run like 3 game sessions of just variety of different types of tabletops. So Thirsty Sword, Lesbians, Kids on Bikes, Monster of the Week, all those things. We've been running those. So also have a just great community if you want to come hang out in our Discord.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Tyler.
Yeah, and then we're on Table Quests. We have streams Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday right now. Tuesday is 7 Eastern, and we're doing Call of Cthulhu. We're running the Black Rabbit Society, which is me mashing up a few different other scenarios out there, and it's heavily influenced by The King in Yellow, which has been a ton of fun, and the players I do not think are going to live much longer. So we'll see what happens at that point. Wednesday is Doors and Deities at 7:30 Eastern. It is 5e. It is an ongoing campaign that has gods and players dying and then coming back to life and then dying again. And it is absolute chaos. And then we have, as I said before, the Wish You Were Here A5E campaign on Saturdays at 7 Eastern as well.
Fantastic. There's a whole host of actual play goodness going on, looking at Level Up Advanced Edition, 5e, and also loads of other indie tabletop RPGs, which is stuff that we love to see. At EM Publishing, every Monday we have the podcast and live stream Not D&D, where we interview different indie tabletop RPG creators and have them on to talk about their stuff. Every Friday we have This Week in Tabletop RPG, which is me talking very quickly to summarize the week's news in less than 3 minutes for you in tabletop RPGs. And then, if that's too quick, you can hear myself, Morris, and Peter Coffey talking about the week's tabletop RPG news on Morris's unofficial tabletop RPG Talk podcast, the longest podcast name in the world. I wasn't part of it when they named it, which happens every Saturday as well. So if you're interested in all things tabletop RPGs, check all that stuff out. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you to our lovely guests. And I think that's all for this month. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.